Two of the very best StarCraft 2 players are facing off against each other in a best of 2 series. What I've got for you today is a Zerg versus Protoss, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Oceanborn. Seems like a very common map number 1 actually lately. I feel like most of the series I've been casting over the last couple of weeks have all had Oceanborn as their very first map. Anyhow, spotting right here in the top left-hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg drones, and most notably, not sending out a worker just yet. No proxy hatcheries. We're looking at none other than Dark's main base. His opponent in the opposite corner with the red Protoss probes, he goes by the name of MaxPax. MaxPax currently, statistically, the #1 Protoss in the world, but of course, as I've already said many times before, he does not play in offline events, so you gotta put a little asterisk, there you go, right next to his performance. Let's see though, exactly what ended up going down between these two. So this particular series was played during the WTL, the World Team League, which is why it's a best of 2. This is the only StarCraft 2 event that runs best of 2 as their format. Basically, it's a team league where map score is the most important thing, and sometimes it can be a little anticlimactic, I suppose. You can have like a best of 2 series, of course, end in a 1-1, which always gets a little bit confusing. So maybe for an individual YouTube video or as a single cast, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but for the entire tournament format, it is a pretty enjoyable way to do an event. Although, honestly, the thing I dislike the most about best of 2s is explaining the way that best of 2s work. Because whenever I cast a best of 2, usually people just ask, what's a best of 2? How does it work? Over and over and over again. Anyhow, so far, nothing all too weird. Dark, by the way, just going for a hatchery first at home, forced to take the third. I feel like Dark plays a lot better when he's forced to like expend at home. Like, especially when he goes up against Hero over the last few months, he seems to take his opponent's natural expansion as his very first base. Generally speaking, it just doesn't seem to be that good. But Dark does it against Hero over and over and over again. And, well, lately he's been losing a lot against Hero, mostly because of that as well. He doesn't really seem to do it much against other Protoss players, or maybe he only does it because, I don't know, they're on the same team, Hero and Dark. Maybe they're just good friends or something, and he's just doing it for a bit of a chuckle. Either way, in this series, he is, at the very least, not opening up with that just yet. It's gonna be a Stargate start right here for MaxPax. Zergling speed coming up right now for Dark. He's decided to pull all the drones out of gas. Alrighty. Now the downside, of course, of... he's actually sending a lot of links across. The downside of having your bases split up is that sometimes those adepts can be incredibly annoying. MaxPax is going to continue doubling down over here with that very first adept, using the reinforcing one for base defense instead. Okay, here's the adept committing. No workers killed or anything along those lines, but this is one way, I guess, to defend against this early game shenanigans from MaxPax. The best offense, no, what is it? The best defense, there you go. Is sometimes to go onto the offense, and in this particular case, at the very least, it forces that second adept to stay at home for quite a while. Zergling's still running around. 2 probes actually ended up getting killed. There's still one of the Zerglings, there you go, hanging out, and on top of that, Dark also saw exactly what his opponent was doing. Now, obviously, yeah, he killed 2 probes, but at the same time, he also had to remake Zerglings at home. So ultimately, he spent 3 additional larvae right here on 6 additional Zerglings. Killing 2 probes, I think that justifies it, but that's probably one of the main reasons why we see a lot of the top-level Zergs not necessarily focus on sending those first links across the map, because even in the best-case scenario, it seems to only really just equalize the game. But it does seem to throw MaxPax off just a little bit. Yeah, not in love with that. Kills 1 worker right there from the opponent, takes about, well, 50% of the damage right there. On that Oracle too, not quite ideal. Okay, Adepts shading forward once again, but it looks like this is gonna be all okay. Third Nexus coming up in about 4 minutes and 10 seconds. That is about a good 20 seconds later than the standard timing here for Protoss. Not the end of the world. I guess he prioritized getting a couple additional units here instead, just because he wanted to be as safe as possible. As long as you keep making those workers, it should all be okay. Retargeting right there as well with the Spore Crawler itself. This is something that blew my mind like 6 years ago, okay? When I was laddering a lot and I was playing the game. It never occurred to me that you can retarget with static defense in StarCraft 2. I had never done it before. I don't remember exactly who the first pro gamer was that really started doing that as their go-to. But you even have some guys that like hotkey. I've seen this in the past. They use the hotkey the queens and the spore crawlers onto the same control group, which is very cursed. But it does allow you to target firing down things like, for example, oracles a little bit easier. Lair coming up right now. It's about halfway done here for the Zerg, together with a Roach Warren. Even an Overlord speed. Okay. Now, Overlord speed historically has not really been for aggression, but I've got a feeling, especially since this is dark, that this is going to be a cheeky little queen drop. That seems to be 9 times out of 10 at least over the last few months when we do see that Overlord speed coming up. So it would be nice to have Dark mixing that in. Usually it works really well when Protoss has had a pretty shaky early game. It doesn't seem to... Okay, here's the drop alert. It doesn't really seem to work that great when Protoss has had a relatively clean early game. Losing an Oracle here is actually... Well, I don't want to be overly dramatic. I don't want to say it's game ending, but it does really suck. MaxPax does not see that drop alert. Brenda, get in the plane. Okay, Brenda's in the plane. Roaches and Zerglings are going across right now. So what exactly do we currently have for Protoss? Well, 4 Stalkers, 3 Oracles, 2 Adepts. Looks like he knows that something is a little fishy. Yeah, he's gonna see the grand the grand march of the Overlords. I actually don't like the revelation there. I think you should save the energy. Anyhow, Dark is ready to win this game over the next couple of seconds. This is a big commitment though from the Zerg. Currently quite far behind economically. Gets 1 Oracle right at the very start of this fight. Queens are on creep right now, of course, so they can transfuse one another. No battery overcharge used just yet here by MaxPax. There we go. Being very conservative with that, which is actually the right thing to do. Oftentimes, a lot of players do get a little trigger happy when it comes to that battery overcharge. But so far, so good right here for MaxPax. It's just that this can still go so horribly wrong. Just a matter of seconds. What MaxPax is waiting for is the blink research. So these 2 upgrades in the main base. About 80% or so of the way done. Dark knows that something is coming. And he's seen the amount of Stalkers. Plus he's going up against MaxPax. 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 is Blink Stalkers. That's how that works. Yeah, the Oracles ended up going down though. So there's only 1 Oracle still available. Those are some juicy biles. Yeah, I think this fight is still going to go in favor of Dark here in the end. He's got 24 Zerglings on the back of this. Did he remake Queens at home? He must have, because he's got 9 in total. And we're already going into the next step in the master plan here as a Spire gets planted down here by the Korean Zerg. Yep, I think this base is super dead. It's a shaky build. It's a lot of the top level Zergs don't like playing the way that Dark plays, because if you put these strategies in like an Excel spreadsheet, they just don't really seem to work that well. And Dark plays them consistently, and he wins like the majority of his games. At least the ones that aren't against Hero. So maybe some of the other Zerg should also be mixing this in. Looks like you guys got a new plane for your way home. Get in, Brenda. There she goes. 17 workers are down. No, I think it's more actually. Oh, okay. No, it was 17. Those first 2 probes on the side of MaxPax were killed by the first Zergling group. Anyhow. It is an interesting decision, though, to go Spire, because there's only so many things you can really do as a Zerg player from this position. And when you know your opponent has gone into Blink Stalker, you'd imagine that a Spire is not necessarily your top priority. Alright, well, 6 Mutas. I don't think he's going to be using them for fighting. I think he's going to be using them for counter-attacking only, but it is a little risky, because in a way this is forcing out an all-in here from MaxPax. Maybe Dark is assuming that MaxPax is planning on expanding behind this once again, but he's going 9 Mutas. That's quite a lot. Now he's got faith in the Queens. That's a lot of Queens as well. Yeah, 9 Queens in total. This hatchery is not that important. It's totally okay for Zerg to be 3 base versus 2 base Protoss. As long as he can hold the aggression. Where are we going, lads? Nowhere. Okay. That's a curious decision. One that I did not suspect. No, we're just, I think he assumes... he must assume at this point he's had a rally point set for a while. Now finally they go into motion. He was just waiting for more to show up. Really, Dark. 20 Mutas. But why, though? You know your opponent is Mass Stalker. I was thinking maybe... Okay, it gets spotted as well. That's a really nice scout here. I was thinking we were gonna go for a small group of mutas. It's just such a gamble. There we go. Alright, well, that's one way to get the Protoss back in the game. Just go for a unit composition that is shaky at best. These Stalkers... I mean, that's a large amount of mutas, but those Stalkers are gonna have a pretty good time against mutas, all things considered. If this was just a Roach Ravager Ling army, I've got a feeling Dark would have destroyed this force. Okay. Then again, though, alright, GG is cold. If he would have gone across the map and killed an entire mineral line worth, I probably would have called the strategy brilliant. Now it's a shaky one at best, but I guess Dark was far enough ahead to still obtain the victory here. Game number 2. We find ourselves on the map Heartlet. Little Probius going straight across the map. One thing Dark could do is just not open up. It seems like Dark has two options. Either it's a 16 hatch in his natural, or it's a 16 hatch in his opponent's natural. Those seem to be the two options. He could just open up with a 15 supply hatchery instead and skip the Overlord, but I don't think I've seen Dark do that a single time. Yeah, so he's gonna attempt to get the base going right here on the low ground. And then he won't get it. So look, he even just rallied that drone straight towards the third base, so he didn't even assume he was gonna get it. Interesting. Okay. That's why Protoss players love sending that probe super early. You know, maybe one of the reasons why Zerg players were going 15 hatch for a long time is because they were hoping that at some point, after Protoss is not getting the hatchery block for several weeks in a row, that Protoss players would stop going for such an early scout. And I think it worked for a little bit, because then we saw gateway scouts a little bit more frequently again, and then Zerg players started switching back to a 16 hatch after the Overlord. But now we're just back to the good old probe scout right at the very beginning. There's a little bit of rock, paper, scissors going on, and well, some players like to send that probe in a very tactical manner, and other guys just send the probe whenever they feel most comfortable. Okay. Cybercore is going to be coming up. MaxPax will have to decide what sort of strategy he wants to go for as soon as this structure finishes up. There's a lot of information that Dark can get just from looking at the cybernetics core and from the timing of it. So there's a couple of things that Zerg players pay attention to. First off, he will look at the timing of the Cybercore. He will look, okay, is this at the quote-unquote normal standard time? Yes, it is. Secondly, is Chrono Boost being used as soon as the Cybercore is done? This will indicate the timing at which that very first Adept pops out. So normally it would pop at about 240. With a Chrono Boost, it pops at about 230. Okay. So what Dark sees over here, no spinning in the Cybercore, no Chrono Boost on the gateway. One unit being produced because those little arms of the gateway go up. All of that is a major indicator that this is a Stargate opener. So despite the fact that Dark hasn't seen the Stargate, this smells like a Stargate. Now the Warp Gate research comes up here. The timing of that also looks a lot like Stargate. Unless it was like a Stalker first, which is very uncommon at this level of play, then maybe Dark would reconsider. But even though he hasn't seen it yet, he knows for sure here that it is going to be that Stargate opener. Plus, it's MaxPax. Plus, it's Zerg versus Protoss. So the odds of it being a Stargate are already, by default, probably like 80% of the games. Okay. It's a Void Ray first. Generally speaking, not the weapon of choice. But Protoss players have been mixing it in a little bit. I mean, it would have been nice in the previous game against the Queen drop. Maybe that's one of the reasons why. I actually think if you're gonna go for a Void Ray first, you should not go after the first Overlord. I think you should send it across the map first, try and kill one, maybe even two Overlords, and then kill that one on the other side of the map. Because this one is dead for sure, right? Otto the Overlord doesn't yet know. But why kill this one? Because as soon as Dark sees this, he's gonna pull the other Overlords back. Shouldn't he always be trying here to get two? Dark trying to get a glimpse right there of the gases. But look, now the Overlords are retreating. I saw Hearthstone do that in one of his games. I don't remember what tournament that was, but that was like a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago or so, where he sent the Overlords, or sorry, he sent the Void Ray across. That was against Serral. That was against Serral on Alcyone, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, I did cast that series. He sent that Void Ray straight across the map and then ended up getting like 3 Overlord kills with his very first Overlord. But I guess the timing of it matters. And now it's going to be hard to get it, but I guess he's going to try. All right. Oracle in the meantime. Yeah, trying to create a bit of a distraction. Okay. Still, 2 Overlords is a whole lot better than 1. It's twice as good. I know. Crazy concept. Roachworn coming up. Pretty quick lair. The thing about Dark strategies is that oftentimes they seem very random. So even if you catch like a dozen replays of Dark doing the same strategy, so say you find like a dozen replays of Dark going for a queen drop, the timings will always be ever so slightly different. I don't really exactly know why Dark plays like that, but he's always played like it. So all these other guys are trying their very best to be as precise with everything as possible, and then you have Dark, who's just, I don't know, doing half an hour of yoga before he starts up his StarCraft games for the day, and somehow he turns out to be very flexible. Lowko, why do they build the lair in the expansion rather than the main base? Generally speaking, it's easier, I guess, to build it in the natural expansion rather than in the main base. So the lair adds a little bit of additional health. So the lair has 2,000 health rather than the 1,500 right here for the hedge. Usually you want to build your tech and your most important structures in the easiest to defend location. And the main base is actually more vulnerable than the natural. Generally speaking, at least there is a chance that we will see like a big warp in over here inside of the main base, and then suddenly the hatchery over here is gone. And there's an argument to be made that maybe if it had 500 more health, then it would have stayed alive. But it's also due to the fact, I think, that a lot of Zerg players at some point fully saturate the main base. So they have 16 over here, they have 3 and 3 in gas. Now they know that that base is done, so they never want to look at it again, and it's basically not something you will ever have to manage. Yeah, sometimes if you have like a big Zealot warp in, the ramp can make it a bit awkward to get into the main base too. Plus, it doesn't really matter, you know? Like, if you lose your natural expansion, the game is over anyways. At least 9 out of, probably 99 out of 100 times. Your game is over if you lose the natural. It doesn't really matter that much, though. Hydro Dan coming up right now. Okay, so no queen drop. Maybe due to the Overlord, or yeah, the Overlord killer over here. Blink is gonna finish up here. About 10 seconds. Roach speed is already done. Zerg players have been actively avoiding the Baneling a lot as of late. This is a theme I've noticed in a lot of games. Zerg players, yeah, they don't really want to play Banelings anymore. Ever since they decided to double nerf it. Nice catch right there off that stasis ward. A lot of Zerg players seem to be allergic to the Baneling. Can't really blame them all too much. At this level of play, the 5 HP reduction seems to be 10 times more impactful than the damage change, actually. Anyways, Lurker Den coming up right now together with a Hive. So very fast Hive here. Hive is already halfway done at 7.5 minutes. So we go from a very cheesy Dark to a very tech-heavy Dark. Just trying to play the big macro game here so far. MaxPax already finishing up his own 4th Nexus as well, though. So only just now, yeah, are we finishing up additional gateways. The man's just been warping in about 4 Stalkers at a time for a while. Going double upgrades here and pumping out tons of probes. So MaxPax going for that very low tech, high upgrade, big economy type of unit composition. Which I always like. I think it's very strong. The only downside of this, though, for MaxPax is that I'm a little afraid he's gonna run against a Lurker army here in about a minute. He is not prepared to deal with Lurkers here whatsoever. Like, he's going into a Robo Bay right now, but Disruptor's not really a great option if Zerg is already at Hive Tech. There's the Lurkers coming up. Vipers would be amazing against it. So this is all a little strange. Yeah, Prism in the main base. Would be nice to have a big warp in over there. Dark mostly just trying to survive. That's the goal. No reason to be all too risky here. Just play the survival game. Those Lurker upgrades are absolutely phenomenal. First one gives additional range to the Lurkers. The second one allows them to reposition and burrow quicker. So those lads sitting over here on the ground. There they go. Yep. That's gonna make Stalker armies very hard to play. Usually this will trigger some sort of disruptor transition, or a Colossus for example. Dark already going into Vipers. So as the first Colossus starts up, I think that's the first one, yeah. We already have Vipers finishing. That's massive. That is gonna make life pretty easy. Void Ray, look at this guy. 5 confirmed kills. Forces the council as well. No! Not the Void Ray. Dark, Dark has no heart. Nah. Never once have I felt sad for a Void Ray in my life. Especially since the double Stargate Void Ray meta from like 3 years ago. Oh. I never thought I would feel bad for a Void Ray, but... Oh, in hindsight, that meta was so terrible. Back when the Void Ray was a little bit too good. You know, normally I disagree with double nerfing a unit. I think after Void Rays dominating the game for like a year, they hit it with the nerf bet like 3 times in one patch. I agree with that one, okay? I do agree with that one. I've seen enough Void Rays in my life for a long time, but I did feel... I don't even have a name for the Void Ray. Brenda the Queen, Otto the Overlord. What's a good name for the Void Ray? Vicky the Void Ray. You guys can probably come up with something better than that. There was this Viking called Vicky on a Dutch television show. I don't know if it was a Dutch television show. I think it was a Viking. I think their name was Vicky. I don't even remember. This story is hanging apart by just a thread. Simon the Void Ray? Yo. Don't insult me like that. Believe it or not, my mom did not call me Loco. Although I agree. I agree, she should have. It looks like there's no charts done yet, which is a little funky. That's actually a pretty major oversight here. Those zealots are just getting cleaned up easy peasy. Okay, normally MaxPax very clean. In this particular match, not quite the case. Making a bunch of errors. Nydus Worm over here, just ready to be annoying. Worm already got destroyed in the main base, it looks like. Disappears back into the ground, but so did that 4th base right here from MaxPax, taking a lot of damage. This is going to be a difficult attack to hold on to. He does have Colossi. Where's the Vipers? What? Hold up, I'm going to go back. When in the world did those Vipers die? Did they just fly in? Did Dark pull an all-army hotkey on us? Here they go. Looks just like my ladder games. That's actually very sloppy. Yeah. No, High Templar... I guess Sentries and High Templar are the only units that have a tickling attack. High Templar throw little water balloons. Sentries also don't wander that far forward. Vipers and Infestors, though, don't have that tool, and maybe they should add it. Yeah, maybe Vipers should have an auto attack. I think that'd be nice, but anyways, a little bit of Zerg bias coming in once again. Dark hitting his opponent at as many different angles as possible, and those Colossi are significantly better now that there are no Vipers. Ghosts? Yeah, I guess Ghosts also have an auto attack, but Ghosts are just incredibly strong. The Ghost auto attack actually deals damage. Ghosts just don't get stim pack, okay? Oh my god, this is too much damage. Yeah, this is too much here for MaxPax to deal with. The Colossi? You know what, I say that? Reinforcing units are showing up right now for Protoss. He may be able to break all of this. There is an observer up in the air, and you know what? He does manage to clean that up. It's expensive, because a lot of the reasons why this is getting cleaned up is the Zerg infestation is now also in the main base of the Protoss. It's because, well, there's a lot of units split off right now from the main army. New 4th base over here for Protoss also goes down. Main base still not cleaned up. Dark throwing curveball after curveball, and after we've seen him mostly go for a lot of proxy hatches as of late, it looks like the man is still excellent when it comes to playing the macro match. Ay. We did see him we did see him play that very nice late game as well in the Team Liquid map contest, also coincidentally against MaxPax. where he ended up getting some insane value with neural parasites. Mama ship, coming up. The Zerg aggression is not yet over, though. Obviously, the Mama ship can help cloak this army. At this point, there are 6 Overseers, but I think they're just all, sprinkled around the map to provide vision for Nydus worms to pop up. Zerglings and Lurkers breaking through once again. Nydus worm in the main base of the Protoss does get denied. Okay, MaxPax trying to hold on here. The mothership is out. There she is. Okay, she almost immediately dies. Minus 300. Minus 300. As the guys in the chat say. She did pop a bunch of her abilities, though. Detection was nearby. But you know what? She tanked a lot of damage, and it may just barely be enough to stabilize. Dark is doing all of this off of a relatively small economy. So Dark doesn't actually have that much stuff. Yeah. He could make an extra round of drones here. He's gonna go for another expansion, it looks like. All the roads do eventually lead to Skytles, though. There is a bit of a trap here that Dark may step into. And that is Hydras. Hydras, technically speaking, shoot up. Okay, these guys, look at them. They shoot up. They can shoot up. It's just that there's a lot of games where they seemingly don't do a very good job at exactly that. They get stormed and they get disruptors, and ultimately they just get absolutely torn apart. You do need Storm, however. I think I saw a few High Templar on the production tab. Yeah, but do we have Sonic Storm research? We don't. So, Colossi are a decent option as well against Hydras. Yeah, this is more a ground army that's supported by big boy carriers here rather than a Skytles army. It's easy to look at this and think, huh, yeah, that's a Skytles force. It's really not. These are like the supportive units. +1 air weapons is coming up. New Nexus building in the bottom left-hand corner. Dark, by the way, did make an extra round of drones, and he is just trying to tear his opponent apart with relatively, low HP units, using glass cannons to his advantage here. Uses the Nydus worm to retreat. I love the Nydus worm usage here by Dark. He's doing a really cool strategy where he's constantly dropping the worm. Carrier gets chronoed as if it would finish up in time to stop this Nydus network. This is now in the main base, which means that the bottom left-hand corner is a little exposed, but it looks like, not a whole lot of Zerg army is headed in that direction. The worm will get denied, but at the very least, it's forcing MaxPax to stay back. Ultra Cavern coming up. Okay. Yeah, so no Spire planted down here by Dark. That is a little bit risky. As long as MaxPax does not max out, I think it will be okay. And that is exactly why Dark's being very aggressive. Okay. Could have been worse. No, no. Good. Spire is coming up right now on the back of this. Yeah. I think every Zerg player has played at least a dozen games where they think that the Hydra is an anti-air unit. And then they find out, yeah, technically, but no. It's just such a trap. You kind of have to put down, even with +3 missile, the Hydra is not that great of an anti-air option. This is just so little anti-air, though. Or, sorry, so little, Skytles. I mean, we have 3 carriers. He wants to make the big Skytles transition. There's an abduction as well. Colossi putting in a lot of work. Okay, there ultimately it gets abducted. That's gonna seal the deal. It's Dark who obtains the victory over MaxPax 2-0.